If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
And welcome back. Look who's here. The Lindell is here.
The Lindell.
Yes, the Lindell.
I've been called a lot worse.
But we're ready to resume the K-Files, and we do want to mention Statewide Insurance Group, Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, and Carolina Wire for being our great sponsors. And Lindell has a great case today.
Yes,
we're going to talk about.
We're gonna jump right in. When we come back from commercial, we'll talk a little bit about where I was and
Yes.
and why I wasn't here for a month and all
I
that
beat
stuff.
him up.
Yeah.
He don't want to admit it.
Yeah. All right. So I just wanted to jump right into a case, and we looked at the Jeff Cobb case for a month, and we looked at the Orlando Flowers case for a month, and we're gonna be on this case for about a month.
Okay.
So there's a lot of moving parts in this case, and there's a lot to talk about. So I just wanted to jump into it. So I think just about everybody in Rocky Mount's heard at least some version of the story of the lady that disappeared from the swimming pool and has newer been seen again.
And that was over in the High Meadows.
Right.
I don't know what street.
That's right, at the High Meadows Community Swimming Pool. Right. So, like I said, we're going to spend a while talking about that. Okay. So I don't want to get into all the details today. I want but before. That's right, because we've heard some feedback from folks, and that's the part of the show that most people liked was when we spent a lot of time looking at every angle of or aspect of the case. Right. Okay, so before we get started on that, I promised folks back in June that I was going to be real on this show. Right, yes. And in the whole thing, I talked about my brother being a missing person when we talked about Jeff Cobb's brother dealing with his brother being a missing person. Because, I want people to know that I had mentioned on social media that we'd be talking about this case, and there was some folks that expressed some concern about sensitivity or whatever. And so, I thought about it, and in this case, we're going to be talking about drug addiction, You know, we're going to be talking about how drug addiction led to the death of this woman. You know, so I just wanted to be upfront with people, you know, so that people know where I'm coming from. And I'm folks, I'm reading for some notes, and we'll talk about why, you know, next time. I usually try to wing it, but
Right.
we're going to talk about why I'm reading from notes next time in the next segment. But you know, I mean, I don't judge people based on their lifestyles.
Right.
With the understanding that lifestyles have consequences.
Right.
But I mean, I've got a lot of folks in my family, you know, that have not exactly been on the straight and narrow.
I think
So-
everybody's family
Right.
is that way.
Right. Okay. So, you know, much like the woman that we're going to talk about here in a minute, I hurt my back when I was a teenager, and that led to a lot of pain medications. Right. So when I was 16 years old, I injured my lower back lifting an air compressor into the back of a pickup truck. I was working with one of my brothers, and I threw my back out. My mom and dad took me to the military doctor because, you know, they're all retired Air Force. And, I mean, their answer to it all was just give me a bunch of pills. So I'm 16 years old, and they give me 3 bottles of Valium.
Right.
You know, and some other stuff. So it didn't take long till I was hooked on all of that. You know, I mean, opioid addiction is nothing new. We hear a lot about it in the news. Robbie here did a great documentary on that. You know,
Right.
but I mean, it's nothing new. You know,
No,
and
it's not.
so you know, pretty soon, by the time I was 17, I'm taking pills every day. I'm drinking Jim Beam out of a funnel. You know, I mean, yeah, and I mean, literally out of funnel. You know what a beer bong is, right?
Yeah.
You remember those in college, Sandra? You used to do
Yeah.
those every Friday and Saturday
Yeah.
night, all the time. Instead of putting beer in them, I used to just fill it up with a pint of Jim Beam and do it that way. And I drank so much in that short period of time of about 8 years that my liver is shot. I've got some cirrhosis going on. I got other problems, you know. So my drinking career was brief but deadly, right?
Right.
So, and it all started with these pills that the Air Force gave me. All right, so I was heading down a bad road, so I thought I'd go in the Navy, and that would kind of fix things, because, you know, you're in the military, you think they're going to keep you straight and all
Right.
that. Well, it was easier to get drugs in the Navy than it was in the civilian world,
I'm
right?
sure.
So here I am, I'm 19, I'm in the Navy, I've got access to prescription pills. All you gotta do is go to the guy and say, hey, you know, I got my toe hurts, and they give you, you know, it was crazy. And this was in the early 90s. I mean, you know, I don't think they definitely didn't have the awareness they have now.
Right,
So the
right.
answer to everything was just write you a prescription for something. All right, so eventually my command sent me to Walter Reed Hospital in Bethesda. And after about 8 years of hard drinking and taking pills every day, I went through about a 3-month rehabilitation
Wow.
prison. I don't know what better way. I mean, like they did it right, because I mean, they gave me drugs like Antabuse, where if you drank alcohol, you got deathly sick.
Right.
And I tested that early on. I was like, so I drank some alcohol and got really sick.
Didn't do that long.
No, I didn't. So after about 3 months, I mean, you know, Walter Reed. We just saw the president was at Walter Reed
Yes.
recently. You know,
Yes.
I mean, it was probably one of the best hospitals in the world, and,
That's
was
right.
back then. And so. You know, after 3 months of that rehab and some follow-up meetings and stuff like that, I mean, I haven't been on the pills in 25 years.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, of course. Now, I mean, I've been married for 25 years too, so I think, you know,
She's
Michelle,
keeping you straight. That's
right.
what that tells.
Right, exactly. So Michelle deserves some credit for that. Okay, now, I'm telling people all this stuff so that they know that when we get into this case in the next few weeks and we start talking about
Yes.
drug addiction, that I'm not judging these people involved. Everybody in this story, with the exception of the victim family, was involved in drugs. Right? The missing woman was involved in drugs. Her friends were involved in drugs. The people who made her go missing were involved in drugs. I mean, it was a drug problem, right?
Wow.
Right, you know, right here in Rocky Mount. So that's, you know, that's why I'm telling everybody what I went through, so they know that when I talk about what these folks went through, I'm not judging these folks.
Right.
People fall into problems, you know, but then, like I said earlier,
Absolutely.
problems lead to consequences. So, okay, so we're talking about Linda Lawrence, who spelled her name with an E. Lawere.
Well, she was a pretty lady.
E-N-C. Certainly was. She was a mother. She was a daughter. The family loved her. Her children loved her. And we're going to get into all of that. The most, like I said, with Lawrence is usually not spelled with that extra E.
Right.
So it kind of, when people go looking her up or go try to find about her, there's a lot of information out there that's hard to find and everything because of the spelling of her name, right?
So she's Lawre.
No, Lawere-E-N-C.
Wow.
I know, it's
Lawere.
right. So
all right.
So she suffered from arthritis, and she had major joint issues, right? So just like the situation where I explained, she got hooked on painkillers early on in her life and had a lot of problems with that. Well, she moved to Florida to get away from the scene here and to clean up her act a little bit,
Right.
which she did. She spent a period of time drug free, right? But then she hurt her back at work, and before long she's taking pills again, and then it's right back down again. So here's a woman who I think we can see through evidence of her life that she's trying to get straight.
Right.
But it's not easy for someone who's hooked on drugs to maintain that. So she's down in Florida. She's working. She's drug free. Hurts her back. Gets back on the pills. Moves back here to Eastern North Carolina, right? And this is in the mid '90s. So in the 1990s, she comes back to Nash County. Comes back to Rocky Mount. Her family's up from Halifax area. She's got bad back pain. She's back on the pills. And what happens with people with the pills, prescription pills eventually prescription pills aren't enough for some folks, and before you know it, they're hooked on heroin, and they're doing. So she slid all the way down into all of that, right? So she started taking painkillers, and then that led to other drug use, and then before long, her life is just drugs. So at 45 years old, right? And we saw the evidence that earlier she had tried to change. So we know that she wanted to. She had kids, she wanted to do right by them. At 45 years old, she got robbed of the chance to change her life, though, because she left
young.
Right. Let me put my eyeballs on the time. I'm way up. It's hard for me to keep up with these time things. But she left a private swimming pool, like you mentioned earlier, in the High Meadows area. I mean, everybody knows this story. I mean, it's
I remember.
she, like you said. I mean, let's just be honest. She was young. 45 is young. I didn't think so, but once I passed 45, right.
Tell me about it.
She's young. She is pretty. She's a white lady. She's blonde. She's gonna catch people's attention. And so she leaves June 13th, 1996. She leaves the High Meadows neighborhood swimming pool in Rocky Mount. I've been there several times.
So they know she was there.
Well,
somebody knows she was
Sandra,
there.
you are always way ahead of the curve, and I'm happy for that. Oftentimes in investigations, the earliest information turns out to be inaccurate because that early information is supplied by who authorities believe are witnesses.
Right.
But often turn out to be suspects.
Right.
So, very astute of you to call that out. That we say that she was last seen at the swimming pool.
Right.
Because certain people told the authorities and the newspaper at the time that she was last seen at the swimming pool.
Right.
Now, I'm here because I'm not just another pretty face, right? I'm here because I've been doing this 20 years, and my experience, those early stories oftentimes turn out to be inaccurate. I'll give you an example of the Travis Lynch case. His girlfriend told authorities and the newspaper at the time that, he was at my house on Christmas Eve, he was drunk, he tried to drive home, we asked him not to. That became the story for 15 years. That he was at his girlfriend's house in Middlesex.
Right.
He tried to drive home to Wilson and didn't make it.
Right.
Well, through the investigations that I conducted with a lot of help from the Sheriff's Office, the most from the Nash County Sheriff's Office, the most help I've ever received in any case was from the Nash County Sheriff's Office in this Travis Lynch case.
Wow.
We wrote about it for a consecutive 35 weeks.
I know they are all over it and have been.
Yes. I doubt, and the detectives doubt, that Travis Lynch was ever even in Middlesex that night.
Wow.
So the stories that we hear in the beginning aren't always the truth, but over time they gain that, especially when and I'm not knocking them because it's a wonderful service that they perform, but clearinghouses like the Charlie Project and NamUs, these other organizations that gather missing persons information, I mean, it's great, but they tell that original story that was told to them either by the cops or by the media.
Right.
They tell that original story, so it kind of gets locked in. And that's, I think when the General was on here one time, we talked about how police, like when they give out a description, they like to say a dark sedan. They don't want to say a dark Ford because then everybody's looking for a Ford and it might have been a Chevy.
Right.
So in this case, everybody in Rocky Mountain knows that this woman disappeared from the swimming pool, right?
Right.
But we don't really have any evidence, any credible evidence that she was even at the swimming pool that night. Right. So, I want to kind of let that rumble around in people's head for a week, and then we're going to get into why I think that, and we're going to get into where this woman is. I mean, there's a woman who disappeared in 1996, never seen again. I mean, she's dead. That's it's hard. I mean, I've talked a lot to her daughter. I started writing about her case a few years ago. I've talked a lot with the family. It's
so
hard
you're
for
reasonably sure she's dead.
Oh yeah, I mean, where is she? Yeah,
Right.
I mean, so it's long-term missing persons cases. There's that statistical anomaly where they turn up in someone's basement where they've been held hostage for 10 years, or they show up as a showgirl in Las Vegas or whatever. But I mean, those cases are statistically minute.
Right.
So if someone like Travis Lynch, like Lindell Lawrence, they've been missing for 15 or 20 years, then there's really only one logical conclusion, to that. And especially given the circumstances that we're going to talk about in the coming weeks.
But again, their family does not have closure.
Right. Absolutely. And that's one of the
they
problems.
have in common.
Especially in this case, because we're going to get into, I had district attorney down in Duplin County, Dewey Hudson, one time. He told me about a case. He said this case has more twists and turns than a ride at the county fair. Right? So that's a good description of this case.
Yeah.
This case has a lot of twists and turns.
I'm interested to get into it.
And we are going to get into it. So Lindell Lawrence, she's been missing since 1996. She's on the police department's website as listed as an endangered missing person. There's been a lot of effort put into finding her and finding out what happened to her. So hopefully we can help. There's a number at the bottom of the screen. If anybody knows anything, they can call. There's a big reward involved. So
yes, it is. We have $15,000.
That's our introduction to Lindell Lawrence, and we will, as the daughter reminded me just recently, we're going to approach this case with all the sensitivity that we can. We're going to approach this case with respect to the family, but we're going to approach this case.
Right. Very good, Lindell. Thank you for that.
Yes, ma'am.
And we will be right back with you. We'll take our commercial break. Be right back.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
Okay, welcome back to the K-Files.
Yes.
That was interesting, very interesting, Linda. I can't wait till next week to hear more.
I wanted to start with that and just get into it, but I feel like I owe a small explanation to folks where I've been for 4 weeks now. Has it been 4 weeks?
4 weeks.
It was a difficult 4 weeks. Let me tell you that. I had the coronavirus, and that only takes up for about 2 weeks of it.
And this is what's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. We were talking about this the other day.
In 2 weeks, you'll be over and okay.
Right.
Look, you can go right on back to business. That isn't true.
The coronavirus was the flu, and it was terrible. It was bad. I had the temperature, my shoulders ached. It was bad.
Did you have the loss of appetite and all that? A lot of people say they have one person.
Well, I laid in bed for 4 days.
Nothing.
Yeah, I laid in bed for 4 days. I've lost a few pounds. Of course, I shaved. That was about 1.5 pounds.
Well, that was worth the whole process.
I know, but I've been sick before. Honestly, I had the flu in 90. What year did I have the flu? When my first child was born in 96, I had the flu.
Right.
That was worse than this. The sickness part of it was bad. But then there's just this whole other component, the feeling of isolation.
Right.
Your own family won't come. It must have been kind of like folks who had AIDS in the early 80s, where like people just avoided them like the plague. People don't want to come around. You can't go anywhere. The doctors tell you to stay.
In the same house, how do you do that?
Well, they locked me away and forgot about me. They put,
You're gonna slide your food.
My son, one of my youngest sons had it too, but he was up. He had 1 day and he was over it.
Well, I don't know how your wife kept from getting.
Well, my son, my second to oldest son, he hammered a sheet up over half the house and just pretended like we were in the isolation unit. But anyway, the sickness and all that was bad, but that was a couple weeks and it was over, and I actually took time off from work. My day job at the Enterprise, which in the news business you really don't ever really get time off. But I took some sick days that I had built up because I just couldn't do anything. But all that was over with. Well, then part 2 kicked in, and I thought that it was just me. I have 2 jobs.
Right.
I do this. I'm working on my master's degree.
Right.
I do some other stuff. I juggle.
Yeah.
A lot of
you probably
responsibility.
said, my immune system's just down because I'm tired. I stay tired,
But that's why I read from script today. I thought it was just me, but then a friend of mine found an article and sent it to me, and then I started investigating it. It's what folks are calling the COVID haze, or the coronavirus haze, and it affects your mind in some way, and they're still doing studies, they haven't figured it all out yet, where you just can't concentrate anymore. And that, it's gotten better, but that was the problem. It was a real struggle to me to do the very basic things that I had to do.
That's exactly what a girl told me that had it the other day. She said the very same thing. She said, I was walking around like in a daze.
Right.
Because I couldn't concentrate. She said I couldn't even watch a TV program.
And to me, that was the worst part of it. Now, I'm not trying to undersell those 200,000 people who have died, because that obviously, obviously that's the worst part of it for them. But if you make it through the other side and you think, well, now I'm, in the past when I've had the flu or a cold or something, there's always that moment where when it's over you feel better than you did before. Maybe it's just a psychological thing, but you feel great.
Yeah.
You know, when you finally get over the flu, you're like, man, you know, I feel good today.
Absolutely.
That day hasn't come for me yet because I'm just perpetually confused and really can't think straight.
Wow.
And so that's what's going on with
To
me.
me,
So,
that's scarier than the
I mean,
part
it
of
really is. I'm hoping, you know, that it gets better.
I think.
But I mean, I wanted.
Okay.
I mean, and it even kicked in early because you know the day that I wasn't here, I knew that night I knew I was getting sick.
Yes.
And I thought, well, I'll call Sandra in the morning and tell her, you know, I called you at 6 o'clock, but it wasn't 6 o'clock. It was 8 o'clock.
Right.
And you were like sitting here without a
Where's
show.
Randall?
Right.
But I'm so glad you didn't come.
Oh, I know how you are. I know how you are with it. I knew you wouldn't have a problem with that. But I mean, it's like that. You just can't, you know. I mean, it's just really hard for me. I've got my thesis coming up. You know, I've got a lot of stuff going on. I got a daughter in Japan. I got a son in Chicago. I got all these things going on, and I can't. It's just hard for me to wrap my brain around.
Well, I do commend you.
And the only thing I got, I mean, look at me. The only thing I got is my brain. So if my brain ain't working, I'm just in trouble.
Well, you're a smart guy. You'll be fine, and it'll all come back. But I do commend you for getting your doctorate, for going and getting your doctorate.
Yeah, well, you know,
got your master's, now you're going for your doctorate.
Yeah, they tell that to the school over here so I can start teaching and get out of the rat race.
Get
out of the rat race.
Professor.
Yeah, if you're looking for someone who's an expert in everything, give me a call.
That's funny.
Wow, what a resume builder.
Yeah.
All right, so for folks who since it's been a month, people who are accidentally tuning in today and they haven't been here before,
Right.
What this show is all about, folks, is and now I'm just killing time till the door opens. See, I've learned. What this show about is I have been a crime reporter at newspapers for 20 years here in North Carolina. Wilmington, Jacksonville, Kinston, Duplin County, Rocky Mount, of course. Now Wilson. You know, I mean, I've been around the block, and I've been writing about unsolved murders and missing people for many years. Some huge success with some of those, and some, you know, you ain't never going to get anywhere on some of these cases. So I've had different experience, and when we met a few years ago. Well, it's been probably 6 years now. We've known each other 6 years. That's crazy.
Oh, wow.
So, you know, we always talked about doing this kind of thing. One thing you wanted to do, what was his name, Bolin or whoever it was?
Yeah.
Your old boyfriend that was in prison for murder. So, I mean, you know, we wanted to do that back then, and then it got away from us.
That's right.
And things
That would have been.
life always gets in the way of what you want to do.
It does.
So finally in June, we just bit the bullet and started this thing and hope,
right.
you know, and see where it goes from there.
I'm hearing a lot of good comments from people. They really, you know, I had somebody two people asked me yesterday, is Lindell going to be back? Are y'all doing the K-Files? So, you know, there is a lot of interest.
Well, I mean, it's I like doing the show because there's things that you can talk about that, you know, that don't necessarily fit into a news story.
Right.
And plus you've got a much broader audience than I've had before.
Right.
I mean, we're talking 19 counties.
19 counties. And the internet.
With the internet, it's globally.
Yes.
You know, but I saw a flat Earth person the other day saying that their organization was global now, and I was like, you know, think about that for a minute, buddy. But you know, I mean, we reach a lot of people.
Yes.
And we reach a lot of people that, you know, people talk about the internet, and the internet is great, you know, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of folks out there that are watching this show live this morning.
Right.
That aren't looking at the internet.
That's right.
I mean, there are a lot of folks, I mean, you know, believe it or not, in the internet age, there's a lot of older folks that ain't tuning in to what the internet's got to say. They're not tuning in to YouTube every day. So I feel like we have an opportunity to reach a lot of people with these cases, and you know, this is more than just a for lack of a better word, a Crime Stoppers show. You know, I've been involved with Crime Stoppers for years. I think they're great. They provide basic information and ask someone to give a call.
But we do specific
Right.
cases.
Right, we're looking,
Specific
and
cases.
yes, and we're looking at details and specific cases that aren't getting the
That's
attention, you know?
But we do ask people to call in. 406-6736 is the number. It is anonymous. There is a $15,000 reward, up to
Right.
15. That's a very important word. Those are two important words, but up to $15,000.
So what we're saying is you call in and you provide that information that law enforcement does not have,
Right.
and your information is key to solving one of these unsolved murders or missing persons cases, which are often murders without a body, and we're going to give you a lot of money.
And somebody knows something about every case.
Yep.
So, we were talking about the Sammys. People know about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They know about it.
Oh, and we got the case in Edgecombe County. Earlier this year.
Right.
They're at a gang party, and 2 people get shot, and there's 60 witnesses.
I thought we were going to have a
now,
new case.
Well, I thought by
skeleton.
oh yeah, well I'm working on that. I don't have any more real information than what was presented.
Yeah, when I saw it, I
next
said,
week,
"Oh, there's another
yeah,
case."
next week I will certainly bring that up. And it's good you brought that up, because you got 3 kind of cases that we're talking about: unsolved murders, missing people, and unidentified bodies. Right? Oftentimes, those 3 separate things all get combined into one thing. And what I mean by that is when you have a missing person, somewhere out there is an unidentified body. I worked with a deputy from up down at the beach. It's been probably 15 years ago now. But he had a project where he looked at all of the missing people in North Carolina and all of the unidentified bodies. And just through some basic detective working, he put 4 of those cases together. So he solved 4 missing persons cases.
Wow.
By identifying those bodies. Now he's got 4 unsolved murders.
Wow.
So I mean, all these things go hand in hand, and that skeleton that you're talking about out in Castellia, that belongs to somebody.
It does.
So there's some sort of resolution, hopefully coming down the line as far as to who that person is,
Exactly.
and then we'll see where it goes.
We've got we did have.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about that case next week. So
All right.
If I get If I can remember,
get all the cobwebs
I know.
out.
Whew, that cobweb. That's a good way to describe it.
Okay, we're going to take our next break, come back with our local weather from Fred, and then we'll resume with Lindell.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for electronics? We have almost anything you can think of. We always carry new and used guns, so come here first and shop with a local business you can trust. Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun, serving you for over 25 years. 443-1668, 2552 Sunset Avenue, Rocky Mount.
Okay, and welcome back. And
Hey,
I want to do a recap show. We got to do a recap.
We
show
will.
On all the ones that we have talked about in the past, which is quite a few cases.
Yes.
So anyway, we'll be doing
We will do that
coming up.
I also hoping that for the end of the year / holidays, because Christmas is on Thursday, I think. I don't know.
I think so.
Maybe so. Maybe it's a Friday. I don't know. I get confused. But anyway, I'd like to do some sort of clip show.
Yeah.
You know, them old 80s sitcoms used to do when they ran out of money.
Yes.
When they ran out of money, they did the clip show.
Yes.
All right, so we'll do that. My wife says I look like Marlon Brando. Now,
Oh, really?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, you could.
I was going for like Streetcar Named Desire, but I think she's talking about. I think she's talking about Apocalypse Now, Marlon Brando.
I agree with her.
All right.
A call, and this is the caller that called a while ago. So you want to take a call?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good morning. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing good. I hope y'all are.
Yes, sir.
I enjoyed the show. I didn't know if this was recorded or not. That was trying a while ago, but I didn't want to interrupt. I think it's awesome. You remember back in time where milk cartons used to have
Yes.
missing people on?
Right.
Yep.
So then when you were talking about the counties that y'all are touching, it made me relate to that. You know, they don't do that no more.
That's right. They don't, I don't think. No.
What about on little quart milk cartons?
Yeah, the ones that were paper.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of paper cartons.
Might
Yes.
have been a gallon.
Uh-huh.
Half a gallon.
Right. That's right.
Well, I got to get back my little background.
I hear your background, so
Thanks for
thank
calling.
you for
Appreciate
reminding
that.
us of the milk cartons.
You're right.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one now.
Uh-huh. Bye-bye.
You know, he brought up a good point, and that was there doesn't need to be as many missing people as there are.
No.
And I blame the media for a lot of it.
Oh, yeah.
Because in the town where I grew up in, there was a woman that worked at the newspaper in that town, and she was walking home from work at the newspaper, and two men kidnapped her. She was never seen again. The newspaper ran about 2 or 3 stories about it, and that was it. Now, if I was the owner of that newspaper, I'd run a front page story about my employee every day.
Yes.
Until she was found. That's like with the Travis Lynch thing. You know, the Enterprise ran 35 stories
Right.
about Travis Lynch
Right.
for 35 weeks. You know, if everybody would get as committed
That's
to that,
right.
we wouldn't have as many missing people.
Well, you were the one behind all that.
Well, but we don't need to. I mean, there's no reason to have this many missing people that we do. And it's you know. All right,
not.
so I wanted to talk about. You know, I told people I've been doing this 20 years, and I wanted to talk about a case that I had a lot of success on, and I want to talk about a case I didn't have success on, because you know I want people to know how this all works, right?
Right.
Okay, so the first guy is a guy named Sheldon Prawl, right here. He went missing from his girlfriend's house on Halloween of 2013, right? I couldn't get, this is down in Jacksonville, North Carolina. I couldn't get anybody to listen to me that he was other than just decided to skip town.
Right.
Right, the cops weren't that interested in the
They
case.
like to pass that off so
Right.
easy sometimes.
Right, and they felt like he had just run off, so I couldn't
Right.
get anywhere with him. Well, he had a tattoo on his arm that had the words R.I.P. Daisha and dates on it. Right, that's the actual tattoo that was on his arm. That was his sister who died of a heart attack.
Wow.
So he's got that on his arm. Well, when they put that information out, I thought, you know, they at least did put a description of the guy out. So I remembered the whole tattoo part of that.
Right.
Okay, so a dismembered body turned up 2014 in 2 different buckets up in Detroit. Right, so half of him's in one bucket, half of him's in the
Yeah.
other bucket. Well, the police up in Detroit found a tattoo on this guy's arm, and they put that information out, right? Okay, so turn the page here. The local cops back here in North Carolina,
Right.
they didn't put Sheldon's information into the NCIC, which is like the National Database for Criminal Investigations and stuff, because they just thought he'd just run off. So when the Detroit cops put their information in that they found a body, unidentified body, the local guys didn't pick up on it because, okay, so I had created a Google alert for that tattoo. For the words, I created a Google alert for the words tattoo and the word Daisha, right? So as soon as Detroit put that information out, I got a Google alert about it.
Wow.
So I called the local cops and I said, hey, they just found a body in Detroit that's got this tattoo on it. And they had no clue. They hadn't, because they had not entered his information into the system. They weren't prepared to get the feedback from Detroit. So they got in touch with Detroit, which this very easily, maybe they would have found out eventually, or maybe it would have just went by the 2 ships in the night and they would have never known. Well, it ended up leading to the arrest of his girlfriend and her brother and another guy, right? The brother's serving 48 years in prison. And the girlfriend is still awaiting trial. It's been a long time. It's been 5 years, but she's still awaiting trial. So that was one of the instances in which I feel like I helped.
That was excellent.
Right.
Excellent.
I thought I'd got it out, but I guess not. And okay, we're gonna swing this one by memory. So Sheldon Prawl is a case that I'm kind of proud of.
Yeah.
Because just a simple Google alert, right?
Man.
Helped solve that case when it should have been in the NCIC. The next one I remember very badly because I really messed up on this one. So when you mess up, you tend to remember those.
Right.
This guy's name was Arwayne Singal, and like I said, I don't have I lost my script, so I'm flying by the seat of my pants here. But this guy disappeared in about 2015, 15. The circumstances that were involved in his disappearance led me to believe that he ran off with a woman. I mean, there was just some good information there that I thought so, the authorities thought so. So when I wrote the story about Arwayne, I don't know if I remembered if I gave y'all that picture or not of the story, but I kind of, I just kind of said that, hey, this guy ran off, and I kind of dismissed it. And yeah, I based that on a lot of experience that I had, and there was evidence that he had run off with a girl. Well, come to find out, his father-in-law didn't like him.
Oh.
And I don't have any indication that his wife knew. I mean, she hasn't. As far as I know, she hasn't been charged with a crime. So that was one of the things that led me to think he had run off, because she thought he had run off. His wife thought he had run off.
Right.
He packed a bag, stuff like that.
Wow.
When it turns out that his father-in-law, this character here, he killed Arwayne and buried him out in the woods with his luggage, and his own daughter didn't even know. So that was a case that had I put a little bit more effort into it and followed my own rules.
Right.
Like I criticized the cops in this case, I turned around and did it in that case.
You did it.
It's really easy when someone goes missing, because I've written hundreds of missing persons stories, and I've been involved in hundreds and hundreds more.
Well,
because missing persons cases, most missing persons cases are solved before I get a chance to even finish the story.
Well, it's hard because I'm grown. I can go wherever I want to.
Yeah, absolutely. There's
but
no
then
crime.
again, is that my habit? Is that something? So it's hard. Let's see who. Good morning.
Hey, good morning. I see you brought Marlon Brando on the show this morning.
Yes, I did. I tell you.
If anybody would get my Apocalypse Now reference, it would be you.
I've been waiting to get my man back. First of all, welcome back.
Thank you,
to
sir.
the show this morning.
Appreciate it.
I don't know if anybody caught the eeriness of the tattoo, but you said that's the actual tattoo on the arm.
Right.
And because the body had been suffering rigor mortis, it's a white. His skin had basically become white
like a piece of paper.
Yes, sir. You're right.
And that was absolutely eerie. The other thing I was going to just remind everybody is that, and remind you as well, you are the media, and you're doing your part. We got to get the other media to start to figure out what responsibilities that we have to help find people.
Right.
And the database issue is absolutely powerful, but you also demonstrated a capability that some still haven't figured out. They're using the national assets to put things out in, but the power of Google and things like that are available for usage is where your unique mindset, because you're driven by just using what's available. And
Absolutely.
They're trying to use national systems, background systems that may or may not get information or publicize it. So that's a powerful move. So again, hats off to all of you. And Marlon, when Lindell comes back, have him give me a call.
Yes, sir.
You guys are good.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
General.
We'll talk to you this afternoon.
Yep, got a meeting this afternoon.
Absolutely. See you guys this afternoon.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
All right, Godspeed.
The general is all as astute as always. I mean,
Yes,
he picked up
he
on
is.
that when I started doing this 20 years ago. I met some resistance. I got a lot of help, but I mean, I met some resistance. But the main thing, like he said, I had to learn to start using everyday tools because I didn't have the access. I still don't have access to the databases, the NCIC, and the stuff that law enforcement
Right.
does. You know, I mean, I would love, believe me, I would love to get in there. I've seen it at work. I've been with them when they use it, and I mean, they get people's telephone numbers. You know, I mean, the vast amount of information that's available to law enforcement for folks who've never seen it in action, it's mind-boggling how much they can find out about somebody in a couple keystrokes. But I had to learn, like the general said, I had to learn how to use Google. I had to, learn how to start getting death certificates, and just start finding people, finding the victim. We saw in the Carl Butler case that we started here early on. Sometimes the family of missing people are missing. You know, I mean, sometimes it's something as simple as just talking to a widow or talking to a child turns into a labor-intensive thing where you're trying to track down people. So you're using all of these things on the internet, just Googling people, looking for addresses. It's not as easy to find people anymore because people don't have home phone numbers like they used to. They're not in the phone book like they used to be. So it's difficult. But I thought about it. There's a scene in Watergate where Dustin Hoffman's down in the basement. Or it might have been the other guy, but they're down in the basement of the newspaper, and they're trying to find somebody in Kansas, and they've got the newspaper, the Post, had phone books from every city in America in the basement.
God,
so he's going through every phone book for the state of Kansas to try to find this one name, and I realized, he's Googling before Google.
Before Google.
So
absolutely.
All this being said, what I'm trying to say is what the general said, is there is no excuse today to have as many missing people and unidentified bodies as we do. I mean, North Carolina's got upwards of 100 unidentified bodies. Now, some of them are never going to be identified, and I know you shouldn't say this, but I mean, they found a skull under some railroad tracks.
Right.
So did he die? Did this person die when the tracks were being built? You know what I mean? So there's some mysteries that are really not going to be solved, right? But there are also, like this body in Castalia. I mean, how long should they have to go before we know who that person is? I mean, the medical examiner's looking at it. I mean, a lot of it, unfortunately and sadly, is cost effectiveness. We in the missing girl up in Northampton, we saw where they used her DNA to figure out where she had been.
Yes.
They knew she had been in Florida because of her DNA, but that's expensive. So I think that's another part of it.
That is.
If we really cared about people, we would be spending more money at the crime lab in Raleigh solving
Absolutely.
more of who these people are. And I can't, it's really sad to me, the number of missing people, long-term missing people. I don't mean like someone that's been gone for a month. I'm talking about people been gone for 20 years.
Years.
You know, it's really sad, and those families are just left devastated. So that's what we're trying to do here, folks.
That's right.
Trying to help people find some missing people, help figure out who some of these unidentified bodies are, help law enforcement. I know that'll be important for the general to hear. We're here to help law enforcement. When they work with me, when they work with us,
Right.
I don't get in their way, especially a brand new murder.
Oh,
Now, I've learned over the years.
No,
Now, I mean,
that's not our role.
I've been a crime reporter, ambulance chaser, and had to go to every crime scene and you know and interview neighbors. I mean, I've done all that for years. I don't have to do that anymore, but I've done all that for years. But I've learned that when a case starts, it's best to let the detectives do their job.
Absolutely. Yes.
And I mean, we see Nash County, they solved two homicides in one day, and had them both solved by the next day.
They did.
So, and he's coming back on the show, by the way, in the next week or two.
I was going to say next week.
Is it next week?
Next week, Lieutenant
Well,
Jeff
good. I got
Rod
less work to do.
And the name, Randy Colgrave.
Right. The case he was going to talk about, but then he got sidetracked because they had two murders in one day.
I want to talk about that some more because
Right.
that's just, terrible.
So over time, 10 years, 20 years later, the nonsense that we could somehow jeopardize a case
Right.
is foolish because they've had 20 years to do something.
That's exactly right.
And also, sometimes like in the Travis Lynch case, I hit that nail 35 times with a weekly newspaper hammer, and now it's more or less an active investigation again, because they've developed leads that they did not have before. So I've backed off and allowed them. You know, I'm here to work with law enforcement. I'm here.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what our organization's about.
Yes, absolutely. Our Team Cold Case thing has law enforcement members on the board.
Yes.
But there are certain circumstances when cases are so old that they need real help. And the main thing is publicity. And like the general said, we need to get the public involved.
Yes.
People need to have a responsibility toward these missing people that they don't have, that the media doesn't have, that the general public doesn't have. But we need to somehow coerce, inspire, and persuade people that it's important that just because it's not your son that's missing, it's somebody's son.
That's exactly right.
And there, I'm off my soapbox.
Think about that.
So next week, I didn't forget it was next week. I knew it was coming up.
Next week.
So next week, Lieutenant Sherrard will be here to talk about the Randy Colgrave case right outside of Nashville. Man got murdered in a home invasion a few years ago.
Yes.
One of only two unsolved murders for the sheriff's office.
Right. That's
so
exactly
they want to solve that. They saw some cases. I remember when I was when I first wrote about Travis Lynch years ago, I was sitting at the table with Sherrard and Major Brake, and they had to get up and go because they had a stabbing somewhere, and they solved that stabbing with an arrest before the end of the day. Wow. So Nash County likes to wrap up those murder cases.
They do.
So they want to solve this. Yeah, they want to solve this Colgrave case.
Yes, they do.
So
it's been outstanding.
It'll be next week
for them. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show today. Welcome back, Lindell, and next week we'll be.
I'm feeling better already. Just being here, I feel.
That's good. That's good.
Yep.
So you're back in the saddle. K-Files. We'll see you next Thursday morning with Lieutenant Jeff Sherrod and some more information. We're going to hold Lindell to it. More information on Glenda Lawrence. The next
we'll talk about the skeleton in Castelia. The agenda is set for next week.
Yes, it is. Okay, make it a great day, everybody.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
In the market for new or used guns, look no further than Carolina Jewelry Pawn and Gun. Whether you want to buy, sell, or trade, we got you covered. While you're here, check out our large selection of jewelry. We offer gold, silver, diamond, and beautiful estate jewelry. Looking for